Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Week Ahead News Show. It is episode 50. 50 episodes in. Tommy, half 100.
Halfway there.
Yep. It's currently February 16th, 2026, President's Day. Hope everyone had a good day. Some people had a day off. Must have been nice. Hope everyone had a great week. Past week we had Daytona last Sunday. Not much going on besides the Olympics. We'll be talking about that here in a little bit. Hope everyone had a good Monday, though. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell if you want to be notified whenever we go live. Our Facebook's in the description when we go live as well. I'll be going right into Weather. I hope everyone's having a good day. It's me, The Doodle Show, with Liam and our good friend Tom.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Episode 50.
50, Tom.
Wow, that's crazy.
We're getting up there. Let's go. Hope everyone's having a good night. Currently, the temperature in George 40 degrees. Feels like 35. Today, the high was 44, low 33. Tuesday, high of 55. Tomorrow, low of 37, partly cloudy. Getting a little bit hotter. Snow's going to be melting. Wednesday, and this should help it for snow melt too. 85% chance of rain, 59 high, 43 low. Thursday, high of 58, low of 39, partly cloudy. Friday, high of 62, low of 37, big swings. 65% chance of rain too. Saturday, it's going to get cold again. Oh my god, I hate Ohio. 35% chance of rain, high of 39, low of 32. Sunday, 55% chance of snow, high of 33, low of 27. Monday, we have a high of 29, low of 18. Next Monday, partly cloudy. This sucks, the snow's coming back. I don't like that. Humidity's at 90%, pretty high. Waxing crescent right now for the moon, 0% illumination. Next moonrise is at 7:23 a.m. Next full moon's in 15 days. First light today was at 6:47. Sunrise today was at 7:15. Sunset today at 5:58, and last light at 6:26 p.m., giving us about 10 hours and 42 minutes daylight, getting a ton more as we go into the spring. So happy to see that. Tommy will be going into the stocks for today. We also have stocks below us. Above us for today, and looks like all red, but miners. Oh, wait, there wasn't a today, federal holiday, so Tom will go in there for last week.
I'm almost tempted to skip the Dow, because after Pam Bondi, that disgrace in front of the United States Senate where she's like, or the House or whatever it was, where she's like, but have you seen the Dow? I'm going to skip it. I'm going to skip it. We're not going to talk about the Dow. Okay, we got the S&P 500. We got it down 81 points, 1.17%. Nasdaq's down 405 points, down 1.77%. And I'll do the Dow. I'm not doing it because of Pam, but I'll say the Dow. Okay. 540 Dow's down 546, 1.09%. So I don't know why she wants to talk about the stocks, but there they are.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tommy. I'll be going into our funny topic for the week. I'm going to do a quick one, kind of going into our last topic, which we always do an Olympic recap right now. Let me get this out of the way for people. Which is J.D. Vance, Vice President, was booed at the 2026 Winter Olympics opening ceremony in Milan, Italy. We'll basically be real quick at the opening ceremony of Milan Cortina Winter Olympics on February 6th and 7th. Portion of a crowd at the San Siro Stadium reacted loudly with cheers and boos. One U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife were shown on the big screen waving American flags during the Parade of Nations. Spectators had cheered for the U.S. teams earlier, but the mood shifted when the broadcast camera was cut to Vance in the stands. So that's funny how the reaction was reported international, and some U.S. broadcasters provided live audio, included audio booing and whistles, and one commenter remarked, "There's a lot of boos for him." This is crazy. Draws attention because it wasn't really, directed at the athletes, and it continues, they get applause. Everyone's happy to see them throw field win the Olympics, but, everything going on with America and what J.D. Vance is a part of, a lot of people in the international community do not agree with. It's kind of good it's happening on one of the world's largest international sporting stages. Involved a political leader, so it's good to see it. And the media portrayal as well. I bet, Fox News was going crazy and probably calling Italy communist, so that'd be funny to me. How do you feel about this, Tommy?
Listen, one of the big harms that the Trump regime has inflicted upon the United States is not only, the terrible, terrible, terrible domestic policies that the regime has been implementing, like ICE and all these draconian policies, but what is just as worse and is going to be harder to actually repair is that the damage that he's doing to the United States' reputation overseas. The United States, to be frank, relies upon a world where we have allies that can work where we can work together to solve various sorts of problems. And unfortunately, the Trump regime just showed quite clearly to the world that the United States of America under his leadership cannot be trusted. So of course they're going to get boos at the Winter Olympics. Of course, of course, of course. The regime the regime right now in Washington has proved themselves to be untrustworthy, inhumane partners. So it's just unfortunate that internationally our reputation is so damaged, and how that's going to affect us as we try to uh, tackle various sorts of problems with our international partners. And unfortunately, the next president of the United States, hopefully a Democrat, hopefully someone with more than two functioning brain cells, they'll be able to get in there, and sure, they'll be able to reverse a lot of the Trump regime's draconian domestic agenda. But when they go out there to the international stage, I worry that they're going to find it to be a lot harder of a task to rebuild these old alliances. So at the end of the day, I'm not surprised the vice president was booed. It's just a sad showing of where we are right now on the world stage.
Agreed, Tommy. I mean, maybe it was kind of in bad taste for him showing up. I noticed, at least I don't think Trump was at Daytona this year. So maybe they're not
Yeah.
spending so much, ICE money and so much money on Homeland Security for now. We'll talk about one of our topics later about that. But yeah, I'm happy they did it. And, it's the right. They're allowed to, so it's good for him to realize that and realize, dang, maybe people internationally don't like us for all this crazy crap we're doing
Yeah.
right now. And we'll be going to that international one topic, so I want you to make sure you guys drop a like if you're enjoying the content. You could always comment and what we're talking about. Next topic is our national one topic, which is basically about ICE has started to get kids at bus stops on the morning of February 12th, 2026, last Thursday. As 4th and 5th grade students walked as their designated bus stops outside of Woodland Village apartments in Lindenwood, New Jersey. U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agents began a law enforcement operation in the same area. Surveillance and door camera video footage showed dozens of children suddenly running away from a parking lot. Some students shouting "ICE, ICE" as unmarked vehicles and agents in tactical gear appeared nearby. Presence of multiple enforcement vehicles. Without clear communications, the family of school officials basically sparked panic among the students. One child, a 10-year-old Dylan, recounted CBS News that morning had begun like any other day, but turned frightening when classmates began to shout about ICE, triggering a mass run for safety. He described being chased as he ran home, and was later seen on home security footage, despairingly banging on his front door, urging his mom to let him inside. So it's kind of crazy with everything going on now and how people are reacting to this. Many students expressed profound fear and confusion with sudden and unexpected arrival of federal agents near a place where children associate with safety and routine, their daily bus stop. Especially, it's always like around a certain time, so they could look that up too. Led some quite kids to believe that their families might be in danger of being detained, especially a lot of what's happening in New Jersey right now. Parents and residents echoed these concerns, describing children as traumatized, hesitant to go to school afterwards, and deeply shaken by the incident. The response by school and officials, the Lindenwood School District issued statements to families assuring them that no ICE agents were on school property and all students were safe. Distraught children were escorted to school by a bus driver, or who reportedly circled back multiple times to pick up those who fled in fear. This is crazy. The district also noted that some families chose to keep their children home after the incident, and administrators arranged for bilingual and English-speaking counselors to support students emotionally. Superintendent Kristen O'Neill communicated a priority was the children's safety and emotional well-being, and the districts would work with families and authorities to prevent similar distress in the future. community reaction, though. The incident quickly capitalized and concerning activism on Friday afternoon. Roughly 300 people gathered in protest in support of the local Latino community, and expressed opposition to ICE enforcement tactics. Organizations and attendees emphasized that children should never have to run from U.S. government enforcement agents. At a place associated with safety and education, U.S. Rep. Donald Norcross, a Democrat from New Jersey, also called for greater transparency from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security regarding the operation, stating that if its enforcement was lawful and appropriate, there should be no reconstance to explain the purpose and conduct to the public. So it's interesting. About 60% of the local school district is Hispanic in that area. So it makes sense how everything's happening right now, and especially a lot of like the craziness and hate we're seeing towards them. So sad to see, you know what I mean? Like I kind of said, ICE could kind of learn about that. If you don't really want, if all this shooting stuff, imagine, like, if something crazy happened and, they actually had shots fired while kids were waiting for a school bus. Like, they gotta be smarter than that and maybe just not go after people in that neighborhood, you know what I mean? At that strict time. It's only like half an hour, you know what I mean? Once a day, so it's not the hardest thing ever to learn. And it kind of shows how, like, stupid ICE is just to go into everywhere. How you feel about this one, Tommy?
It's disgusting, So,
Yeah.
Listen, if I was president of the United States right now, the first thing I would do is I would pull ICE back off the streets. I would send them right back to their designated border checkpoints. Then the second thing I would do if I was president of the United States is I would work at forming a new immigration agency that would have uniform codes of conduct that uniformly follows the Constitution, that wears uniforms, they are identifiable, and then, we could go back and have a conversation about immigration. But what is going on here is not immigration enforcement. It is state-sponsored, like, terror to children. Like, it is truly, truly, truly awful. Awful. You have these kids that are waiting at the bus stop. They're on the bus, they're going to school, and and they have to deal with some armed goons, that are wearing masks that are basically, non-identifiable. You can't see their face. They don't have a code of conduct, and they're just running around. They're not acting as law enforcement, they're acting as thugs. And kids have to see that, and their instinctual reaction to that was, we're dealing with kids here. They don't understand the politics of ICE, but what they do understand, and it's so sad that they have to live in a world like this, that they understand ICE equals danger. And these are agents of the
Yep.
federal government. That is just quite simply unacceptable in the United States of America. It's disgusting, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop like yesterday, because it's I don't know what to say. It's just appalling. Like, it's just appalling.
It's like
on
stranger
every
danger back in the day. Like they just know, and it's sad, you know what I mean? Like all the propaganda online and commercials, and even just like on certain news is, what Trump and all these people are pushing towards it. It's just crazy to me. I saw something telling me that how they're taking like basically DEA and FBI drug enforcement agents and making them ICE agents. So like our drug enforcement's down a ton too, and that's the whole reason why he's saying he's doing some of this. And there was a report last week that only I think 11 or 15%, if this is even true, of the people that they were deporting have criminal records, and we don't even know if those are violent criminal records. We don't know what that is.
Right.
That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like Trump said, we're only getting the criminals. If it's 15% criminals, they're lying to you. You know what I mean? Learn some history. This is just crazy, and like I agree with Tommy. It's disgusting. Tommy's next topic is a little bit about this too, so it's interesting. But keep going.
Yeah, no, it's just it's so hard to witness a lawless agency exerting its control extrajudicially and outside of the bounds of the Constitution. And people are defending this. And I don't know how you could be a real American and, and be okay with the Constitution being trampled on, like the way ICE is. Like,
Agreed.
but
Yeah.
what do I know? What do I know? I just got this con law certificate on my wall.
Yeah. A lot of people I feel that way. Like they're just they have a lot of ignorance and hate, and they've already drank the Kool
Yeah.
Aid. They're gone. But keep going. Unless you want to go into the next topic.
Yeah, no, yeah, so this is our second national topic, which is related to our first topic somewhat. DHS shutdown, Department of Homeland Security shutdown. So I think I predicted this, didn't I? And 2 podcasts ago, didn't I say that like they were going to negotiate, nothing was going to happen, and then there was. I think
Yeah.
I did say that. Okay, so uh, shocker. Donald Trump is not interested in negotiating with Democrats. So, Congress and the White House have been negotiating a Department of Homeland Security funding bill ahead of the deadline that has now lapsed. And the dispute centers on Democratic demands for new immigration enforcement reforms after the high-profile deaths of U.S. citizens, including Alex Peretti and Renee Good, during the federal operations in Minneapolis. On February 12th, 2026, the U.S. Senate failed to advance a DHS funding bill 52 to 47, falling short of the 60 votes needed to avoid a filibuster. Good. Democrats refused to fund DHS unless it included stricter oversight provisions like body cameras for agents. Republicans argued that the rejected bill included some oversight measures like de-escalation training and cameras, but it did not include nearly enough, which we'll get into. After funding expired on February 14th, the DHS entered a partial shutdown since Congress did not approve its appropriations. The shutdowns only affect DHS. Other agencies remain fully funded and operating normally under broader government budgets. In the meantime, most essential DHS fundings will continue because of prior budget rules, including law enforcement, border protection, and some security operations. However, and this immigration enforcement by ICE and CBP is expected to continue due to funding set by a separate larger spending passed in 2025. However, they will not get paid though. Okay, so to all of the ICE agents out there, I hope you have fun working for free, brother. Have fun. And by the way, this is like the only time in my I've been involved in politics that I've ever like made fun of somebody for not being paid during a government shutdown.
True.
Government shutdowns are normally very, very bad, but
I
I
sort
don't
of
know what
haven't
else
gotten
you
to
do.
bonuses yet. The bonuses are like 5-year speculation deals. Like, have fun with that, but keep going.
Yeah. Um. So, TSA workers, FEMA, and the Coast Guard may be furloughed or work without pay. I do feel bad. I do feel bad for them. TSA workers, FEMA, the Coast Guard, they may be furloughed without pay. But some TSA activity will continue to minimize airport delays. So a lot of this critical stuff is going to continue. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said progress hinges on 3 main demands: ending roving ICE patrols, stronger accountability for officers, and banning ICE agents for masking their identities. Many lawmakers are in recess, delaying further negotiations and likely extending the shutdown. Chill Senator John Fetterman was the only Democrat to back a year-long DHS funding bill, warning he should just switch parties. Like, not really, because we need that we need that one vote in the Senate. But like at this point, John Fetterman pulled the greatest bait and switch on the people of Pennsylvania ever. He acted like, oh, look at me, I'm a quirky progressive who can't wear a suit. And now he's in the United States Senate. And he's like, I'm a Republican and I still don't wear a suit. So now I want him to put on the damn suit. So John Fetterman, what he's doing, whatever he's doing, he's backing the bill. But anyway, summary. DHS funding expired after the Senate failed to pass a bill due to disagreements over immigration enforcement reforms. Partial DHS shutdown began on February 14th. Most frontline immigration enforcement continues, but many workers remain unpaid. Lawmakers remain entrenched, and no immediate resolution appears in sight. Listen, why I wanted to talk about this is very clear. I heard, what's his name? Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson go on national television, and he says, Democrats, they want us to get a warrant. Damn right. Democrats, they want us to get a warrant to enter people's home to deport them. Democrats don't want that. The United States Constitution demands that. Okay? So we are dealing with like what kind of reforms are the Republicans offering here? Like body cameras and some training? That is not sufficient when you have officers that are taking a shit on the United States Constitution. You have them doing that. They're not following the supreme law of the land. They're not following any laws. So, what is a body camera? How is that going to be useful for any sort of oversight? Sure, yeah, we'll just have the officers. We'll have them wear body cameras, but we'll also let them just storm into your house without a warrant. Cool. Like that's not a real actionable compromise right there. Like the line has to be, it is non-negotiable that people need warrants. Like, now, I'm not a lawyer, and there are many, 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 many exceptions to the warrant requirement in the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. But it is a core principle of search and seizure jurisprudence that your home is where your Fourth Amendment protections are the strongest, because it is your home. It is your sanctuary away from the government. It is your sanctuary from public interaction and from presenting yourself into a public forum. So it's just ridiculous that our lawmakers, the Speaker of the House, are acting like a warrant is optional. I understand, and I don't know much about immigration law. I know a lot about the United States Constitution. There may be, I've heard, that there are certain warrants that don't need to be signed by judges, to arrest people, out in public. But that absolutely is not the case, in your own home. So we we are dealing with a Republican Party who is disinterested in immigration reform, and they are disinterested in actually applying humane ethical standards to their ICE agents. It has to stop. They have to respect the Fourth Amendment. They have to respect the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. They have to do that. They have to take off the masks. They have to develop a uniform code of conduct. And by the way, why don't they stop going after families and actually go against criminals like they promised to do in the last election? It's disgusting. It needs to end now.
Agreed, Tom. And like this is part of our leverage. This is one of the only things we could do. Talked about, if we're hurting them, they're not getting paid. Hopefully a lot of these agents leave. Some of them are just,
Yeah, I hope they quit their job.
What I
I
mean?
really
Like,
do.
and I remember we were talking, me and Brandy were talking, there are people that do this for the love of a game and they're disgusting, but
Yeah.
they have families too, and, they have a mortgage or rent too, and they have to pay for food. It's not like stuff's free in this country, so you have to get paid to
I bet
work.
it's really hard to. I'm sorry, Kyle. I bet it's really hard to apply for unemployment right now too under this Republican administration. So maybe some of those ICE officers, maybe they'll have to, be waiting in a 10-hour long queue with the federal government to get their benefits.
Yeah. Yeah, finally realize what it's like, so that would be interesting. It sucks for a lot of these other guys getting cut, TSA, FEMA, and Coast Guard, but we gotta hurt, some.
It's
These other free
we're dealing
agencies
with the
don't really kill people, so we have to go after one. And it's funny. Why? Thank you for joining. He's like, Fetterman's a sellout. Yeah, basically once he got in there, we kind of realized he was a sellout. So that's sad. But with ICE and everything, we really have to do something. They can't be killing U.S. citizens and even immigrants, and this without so much bad stuff's happening right now. So
and I'll just say this very briefly. I really don't consider myself to be a radical on the issue of immigration. I want immigration enforcement, but I also want a pathway to citizenship for people, that were here due to no fault of their own. Nobody seriously believes on the left that if you came over here illegally and you committed a violent crime, that you shouldn't be deported. That is a straw man by the right. You know what I mean? Um, but the way this is all going down, and what I have to stress, it's not law enforcement. And by the way, the immigration laws themselves are broken. But this is not law enforcement. This is just rounding people up extrajudicially.
Agreed, Tom. Sorry about that. I'll go into our
Yeah,
local topic one. Hope everyone, like these protests that are happening, these rallies, make sure you go to them. And these midterms, maybe we can have a huge blue wave. That would be nice. We see people on the right even hating a lot of this crap. Make sure you guys drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Um, we're going to local one, which we talked about a couple months ago. For the EMA building the counties are working on, they ended up hiring a local architect. About $21,000, $500 to Baker, Bendara, Snyder and Associates that would design technical specs and drawings for the planned development of the Trumbull County EMA Emergency Management Agency. How about basically county-based FEMA? Would be a good way to put it. The county is moving EMA from its long-term location off at 640 North River Road in Warren to a former fire station at 773 Everett Hall Road in Cortland. Because renovation and moves are significantly going to cost and complexity, Ohio law requires an architect to produce formal plans before a project can proceed to bidding and construction. And we see this a lot with counties and villages, cities, municipalities. They'll have like old buildings they don't use anymore. They got a certain grant to build a new one. And you're like, okay, what can we move into the old one? EMA Director John Hickley explained to commissioners that the architectural firm will deliver a complete set of drawings and documentations needed for the next steps of the project. He told the board he expects design work to be finished about 30 days after the contract is awarded. Once that's completed, likely by mid-March, the county plans to put the overall project out for competitive bids from contractors. That's the next step forward to renovating the former fire station. Interesting to see. It was previously estimated cost around $300,000. Other figures will depend on bidding results and construction scope. If that was the original engineer's estimate, they only have about like 10 to 15%, depending on the project. Sometimes 20 to be around that to be considered a bid. So eventually, we kind of need to see that for our county. If money being tight, and our county commissioners are definitely talking about that, freaking out about property taxes get cut. They're still trying to actually get stuff done. So interesting to see on our end. This is kind of a quick topic. I think, yeah. What do you think, Tommy?
It's an interesting one. I'm happy. I know that there's a lot of renovation that's needed in Trumbull County right now. We have the coroner, doesn't really have an office. This EMA thing. There's just a lot of different county departments that need to be moved and shuffled into new buildings. Like I read in the newspaper, like the 911 dispatchers, are having to deal with leaky roofs. Nobody should have to work in those conditions. I'm happy that the progress is being made on all these developments, but really, like, why do we even have county commissioners? Like, it just seems like to me that the current board, Tony Bernard, Denny Malloy, and Rick Hernandez, it seems like all they're good at is like pushing things down the road here. They've been talking about the coroner for several years now, the dog pound, several years now. So, um, I guess if you have a problem and you want it dealt with in 5 years' time, go to the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners. So
No, agreed, Tom.
pretty much all I have to say on
It
that.
takes a long time to get stuff done. And maybe like this moving could open it up stuff for the corner, but with how they are with money, if they want to cut to look good, they're not getting money from the feds. It's gonna be scary.
Yeah, it is scary, and I am happy that there is progress being made because our coroner needs to have a morgue. like,
They
like
do have to do
I am
something
not
on
a
that.
doctor. I'm not a doctor, but even I know, like, hey, you're a coroner. You need a fridge, brother. Like or a freezer. Like,
You need a place to
um,
work.
yeah, like you're a 911 dispatcher, you shouldn't have to deal with leaky roofs. You're the dog pound. You should have adequate space to actually serve the dogs of Trumbull County. And it's like conversations we've had in the past on this show, Liam. It's like, we believe government is there to provide services to people, but unfortunately that costs money. And commissioners, they don't want to spend any money. So
Be cheap.
anyway, anything else to add on that?
No, that's really it for me on this one. If you're ready to go into a local topic too, a last news topic for the night.
Yeah, local topic 2. Let's see. Thomas Summers announces run for state central committee. No, that's a wrong race.
Yuck.
Trumbull County school superintendents fear cuts if tax exemption rates increases. So, Trumbull County commissioners are considering doubling the homestead and owner occupancy property tax exemptions from 2.5% to 5%. The homestead exemptions provide tax breaks for seniors and veterans. The owner occupancy exemption provides tax breaks for homeowners. The exemptions would lower property tax bills for many county residents. But local schools, which rely heavily on property tax revenue, would face significant revenue losses if the exemptions are expanded. So here's some examples. School officials cited about a combined loss of $6.7 million across Trumbull County schools. Some examples: Howland would lose 917,000. Warren City Schools would lose 986,000. Campion local schools would lose 408,000. Niles City Schools would lose 528,000. Lakeview Schools would lose 451,000. Other districts like Hubbard, Liberty, Brookfield, and Matthews would also lose substantial amounts. So over the past several weeks, the commissioners, specifically Denny Malloy, Commissioner Denny Malloy took the very, very intelligent stance of coming out in favor of eliminating property taxes. So he came out in favor of that, and now him and the commissioners are talking about doing these various 2.5% exemptions, and that obviously kind of crashed out the schools. Like, hey, we had our budget planned out. Now you're taking away potentially 5% of our budget. Like, obviously that caused a lot of struggles for them. So superintendent said their budgets are already bare bone, and further cuts would force them to consider staff layoffs, program reductions, increase future levy requests, which you also got to keep in mind. So the commissioners, these commissioners, Danny Malloy, the Republicans on the board, they very well may be thinking like, hey, I can look like the hero here. I can deliver up to 5% property tax relief, and then the schools can just do another levy anyway. So that's maybe something they're thinking about here. But
I see.
there's definitely going to be, if this goes through, there's definitely going to be some considerable losses to our local schools. Like some examples are Kevin Spicer from Howland expressed concern over direction and funding cuts. Ashley Hedrich from Lakeview emphasized large losses, potentially 450,000. Brian Knight, Liberty, warned that cuts could directly affect students and staff. So all this was happening at sort of like a meeting between all these superintendents and the county commissioners. So the commissioners acknowledges the challenge and suggested that the state should address the funding imbalances. Hey, you're not the state. Denny Malloy, Rick Hernandez, Tony Bernard. Isn't that awfully convenient that you get to be a county commissioner, and you get to take away money from the schools, and then your only recourse is go to Columbus. But it's like, hey, you're the one taking the money away from me. And they're just like, go to Columbus. Okay. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
They also indicate a desire
Just
to work
pointing
with
back
school
and forth.
leaders and avoid.
Sorry.
Yeah. It indicated a desire to work with school leaders and avoid harming local schools, possibly by exploring increasing other revenue sources like sales tax, rather than just expanding exemptions at the expense of school funding. So again, we're back in this same conversation here. Do we want property tax or do we want sales tax? Do we want to pay property tax or do we want to pay 20-30% in sales tax here? I would prefer property tax. I think that's more equitable, that's more fair. But here we go. So some key takeaways. Expanding property tax exemptions would reduce homeowner tax bills, but would significantly cut school district funding. Local school leaders strongly oppose the exemptions because losses could force budget cuts, layoffs, and increase future levies. County commissioners are considering alternatives, and they want the state to help. Of course they do. Of course they want more than 1% of their sales tax revenue back. Of course they do. I'm sure all 88 counties want more than 1% of their sales tax back. But that's all they seemingly have to say. So county commissioners are considering alternatives and want the state to help mitigate the impact. And I'll add in there, well, they do nothing and make the problem worse for our local schools. So that's sort of my takeaway. In my view, I think the county commissioners are playing politics. They're trying to make they're either trying to combat this disastrous or they're probably trying to do both. They're probably trying to some of them are probably trying to combat the property tax thing. Denny Malloy came out in favor of it, but I'm sure some of them are some of the other commissioners are probably trying to get people to not vote for that by giving this exemptions. So that's probably one thing. And the other thing is it's just easy politics for them, probably. Like, oh, I'm just reducing your property tax benefit. I don't have to deal with the schools. So listen, I just think we need leaders that, are able to think ahead and think critically, and are able to think that, hey, we need to invest in our children's future. Hey, we need to make sure that every kid has access to a high quality education. We need leaders that think like that, and not just simply reducing taxes for the sake of reducing taxes. Are there problems with property taxes in Ohio? I'm sure there are. I'm not a property tax expert, but um if there are problems in property taxes, the right result, the way to fix that is not eliminating them. It is making sure that the ultra wealthy, the rich, the that they pay their fair share. So,
And anything,
it's
Tom, think
just
about it.
like,
It shows how they know how bad it is right now. Because you know what I mean. If you make taxes less taxes, you get more money. You know what I mean. And they know that we're
yeah,
spending a lot. But sorry, go on.
yeah, no, um, it's just crazy. That's pretty much all I had to say. Um, I just this is going to be an issue to keep an eye on as the petition to abolish property taxes go forward. We're going to be seeing a lot of talk about this and how it affects our local schools and et cetera, et cetera. So, um, I feel pretty confident in saying though that these exemptions are probably a bad idea.
Agreed. Like you said, like they could just do levies, so it's a big old circle jerk of time. Government loves doing
Yeah,
that, but maybe focus on real things.
doesn't it kind of feel like a giant bait and switch? You know, like like I'm reducing your taxes, but then you're gonna have to pass a levy, or I'm reducing your taxes, and then you just complain to somebody else about your funding. Like it's like the lack of personal responsibility amongst the commissioners. And by the way, they all belong to like a party that talks about personal responsibility. So it's just kind of ironic.
Yep. All right. That's really it for our topics for news. We'll go into the Olympics real quick. Total medal count. Hope everyone's having a great night. Make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. We'll be back here next week at 8:30. Sports show, Northeast Ohio Sports Show, which we topic Olympics now, but a lot like NBA, F1, NASCAR, IndyCar. It's on Thursday at 8:30. Make sure you drop in on that. I might have a total medal count. Number one country is Norway with 28 medals. They have 12 gold, 7 silver, 9 bronze. Italy's in second with 23 medals. 8 golds, 4 silver, 11 bronze, doing well as the home team. United States in third with 19 total medals, 6 golds, 8 silver, 5 bronze. Last Monday, the games had just begun basically. Since last week, we had 2 medals, both gold, early in the competition. We added more medals, including in figure skating on basically the 14th and 14th. Including figure skating, alpine and freestyling, lunge, snowboarding, speed skating, and help us out. The 14th through 15th highlights, we had a speed skater, Jordan Stoltz, emerged as a standout star for U.S., winning multiple golds and setting Olympic records. Talked about that in the sports show. But additional U.S. podium finishes as well in dual mogul skiing, 1 silver, 1 bronze, helping our total. So we had a lot. Figure skating team and visual events, like I said, freestyle skating as well. Pretty good snowboarding as well, Chloe Kim, so that's good to see. Like I said, we're still in third, so good to see in my opinion. Norway's doing pretty well, but they always do pretty well in the winter ones. And the team behind us, the Netherlands country, they only have 12 medals, so it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of this Olympic Games. The women's team, I think, just set a record because I think they set like over 5 or 6 games. Blowouts, basically like 5-0, 6-0, 8-0 games. There's the first Olympic black hockey player is playing and scored a goal. She's from Cleveland, so that's amazing to see. She's in the NCAA right now. So it's crazy because sometimes like for even the male teams are like this too. They'll take really good, NHL hockey players, pro team guys, because there's a WHL, there's a women's hockey league in America and Canada that the NHL runs. But sometimes college players are just better than the average, professional players, and they'll let them play. Or sometimes the average professional players don't want to do it. So it's interesting to see like the young talent in a lot of these Olympics. It's kind of always been like that, Like, I think there was that, I don't know if it was Beck Lausner or one of her wrestlers, like, crazy young and doing it. We've kind of seen that with a lot of like 16-year-olds in the Olympics too, with in all different types of sports. Michael Phelps being young. A lot of these snowboarders are young right now too. So interesting to see. It's a little bit shorter episode for everyone, and only 45 minutes, so not too bad. Happy to see that. Probably 40 minutes total once we started. So hope everyone's having a great week. We'll be back here next week, and that's really it for me. I hope everyone has a good night, Youngstown.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Peace.